Hello and welcome to the latest Lesflicks Live. This is our final event of Lesbian Visibility Week. Just to reinforce the message we've been giving all week, we know we're queer all year round. We have Lesbian Visibility Day that's getting fairly well known. Lesbian Visibility Week, which created by Diva, is becoming a little bit more known. But there's nothing to stop us from being visible all year round. So take this week and amplify it and keep being visible, keep supporting other lesbian businesses, other lesbian entrepreneurs and women, music, film, and just take up the space online. There is no limit to space available online. So thank you very much for everyone for joining us all week long. And I'm very excited. Today we are joined by Denise Marsa, singer, songwriter and playwright. And I'm also again joined by Sophie, who will be helping me asking the questions. So to start off with, we're going to just show you the trailer. Today is the premiere of The Pass on Lesflicks Video on Demand. We're going to show you a bit of an intro. So this live music show that was recorded and is available to watch. I'll give you a bit of an insight into Denise's rich musical journey she's been on over all these years and the music she's been releasing. So it's very exciting. So let's just show you the trailer to start with.
Rainbow, 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 rainbow. Won't you let me, won't you let me take you to the other side of the rainbow, of the rainbow. Wanna stay here all night. Won't you let me take you to the other side? Stay here all night. I can feel the warmth of your breath on the back of my neck as I lay my head on your heart.
Okay, so without any further delay, let's bring onto the stage Denise Marsa and Sophie from Lesflicks, and we can start this live Q&A.
Hello.
Denise, hello, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us at the end of Lesbian Visibility Week 2021.
Sure. Nice to be here.
Thank you. So I guess, I mean, in terms of, say, visibility and things, I mean, you've been out since around 1978, give or take?
You mean out? Oh, no. You mean, I've been doing music, but I didn't come out till much later. That's what the show was about, like how long it took me to come out of the drawer as opposed to the closet. So no, I didn't really come comfortable with who I was until much later.
You started to realize, you started to realize your sexuality around 1978.
Yeah. But I wasn't really out. I was sort of just experimenting. I had a boyfriend, I had a girlfriend, and yeah.
So what did you find the music industry was like back when you started your journey, and how would you say it's changed to where you are today?
It was very difficult for female artists. They didn't sign many female artists. In fact, I was told that maybe one every 2-3 years. It was not like considered a good risk for major labels to invest in a female artist. And it was difficult to sort of produce myself. So I did have a few people in the beginning who really believed in me and supported me producing myself. And, I kind of just came in very naive and just sort of did what I did without really realizing, how difficult it was to trim through the muck. It was definitely a very challenging time. And I walked away from things because I felt I wasn't being heard or I didn't have the kind of control that I wanted for my career. And I didn't want to, I wanted to do things the way that I wanted to do things. So oftentimes it wasn't comfortable. It didn't work out.
But I guess that means you can probably say that you've been pretty authentic all through your career, and that's been quite a key thing. That I think when I watched The Past, that really came across, that you kind of had your kind of like your morals, your red line of what you would find acceptable or not, and you really stuck by that. And I think that's something that is really something to be kind of proud of, and something that I think really kind of stood out for me. Do you think that maybe did close some doors or make things a bit more challenging than it would have been if you'd kind of gone along with the kind of standard and expectations of the time?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I was, I don't know if I was labeled as difficult initially, but I certainly was labeled as a very strong young woman who knew what she wanted. And like I said, I did have a handful of people that believed in me and supported me, but overall it was, when I remember one A&R meeting, which is artist repertoire meeting, and I went in, excuse me, and I played a ballad that I had written, and then I played an up-tempo kind of rock and roll tune, and he said, you have to pick which one you want to be. Are you going to be a ballad singer, or are you going to be like a rock and roller? And I just looked at him, I said, I want to do it all. I don't want to just do this or this or this. They were trying to pigeonhole me all the time. But you've got a great voice for ballads, but you've got a great voice for rock and roll. Pick one. No. I would have had to pick one to work with them. And I guess in some ways, what I've always heard from other artists that I had a chance to meet and work with that had become successful, once you start, especially back then, once you start down one road, it's hard to break that mold. You can't, the mold is there. You're going to be stuck there. And so I was always not wanting to be stuck there. I wanted to be pop and rock and I wanted to be eclectic. That's the word I always I used for myself. I'm eclectic. Well, what do you mean? It's like, why do I have to define myself? I write music. I love music. So it was very challenging, for sure. Because I have my own voice.
Is there anything, I'm very curious because you said something in your film documentary that that's kind of stuck out to me, and it's that the industry will chew you up and spit you out. And I was just kind of curious, like, if you could go back and say anything to yourself, as you were starting up, your hit single and everything, would you say anything? Is there anything you would say?
Yes. I think, like, when you go to a doctor and some doctor says, well, maybe you could do this, or you should do that, or you have that, or you have this, and then you go to another doctor and the doctor says this, you can do that. I think it's best getting a couple of different opinions when you're in the music business. And I think it's always important, if you have a manager, even if you have a manager, to make sure you have your own separate lawyer, because your manager might say, okay, yeah, we've got this, we'll handle this for you, but then you find out that they didn't handle it the way they could have handled it. And if you had your own lawyer looking at something, and vice versa, it's really challenging. And back then, when I didn't know as much, who to trust, whose opinion to take. One person said, don't do this, and then one person said, do this, and don't do that. And so it's really important, I think, to have a general consensus of things that could happen, or what you could or couldn't do, but also to have people, really core people in your life that aren't going to earn money from you, that can advise you and help you, that aren't doing it for their own reasons, or telling you what to do or what not to do for their own reasons. I had strange advice through the years.
I noticed you said at one point, like, you were with a small record label, and then they said they were selling you to a bigger one. And immediately, I thought of film as well, with there's so many layers. Basically, it's just financial barriers that the money has to flow through, restricting what kind of gets to you. And I immediately was like, oh my God, it's the same everywhere. It's like all these layers that if you don't understand, you can end up inadvertently kind of like selling away most of your rights, so that actually no waterfall of funds come back, and you kind of are giving away all of your gifts and your talent with very little trickling through. How did you find that?
Well, I think it was challenging because like that particular deal, I didn't really, and that's another thing, you have to read the paperwork yourself, trust yourself, so read everything and understand what it is that you are signing, because you might have a lawyer this year and then the next year you don't have the same lawyer, but you've signed something that he looked at, and you can't go back to him necessarily, whatever, but know what you're signing. And it's sort of, for me, I walked away from that deal because when I went into that meeting, which is in the show, when he wanted to sell my contract to a bigger label, so what happens if this is my deal and then he has his deal, and then they have their deal. I'm related to that deal. So the trickle down situation, like all of a sudden, my whatever 30-40% becomes really 10% if he's giving that much away, whatever they're doing, because you don't have necessarily control of that, but unless you have your own label, which I have now. But you know, I didn't like that label. I didn't like the decisions he was making. I didn't like who he was. I didn't like so much about the situation. And I went to him to discuss the next steps, knowing that I was legally out of my deal. And he should have known that. So I was this younger artist who knew my deal was over with him, and he didn't even know the deal was over. So I had a chance to walk away, and the lawyer at the time said, walk away. And that was good advice at the time.
Yeah, I'm really lucky, I guess, to be in that position and not be tied in, to have those choices.
Right.
I also noticed you mentioned and you named some instances that happened early on in your career around kind of sexual advances. And it's kind of, I guess, it's interesting because I feel like not a lot in some ways have changed, because we still have reports, and even in the media this week in the UK, there's so many news articles about, you know, like the taking advantage of women in all sorts of industries is still happening. I mean, at what point did you kind of make the decision to kind of like name what happened to you? And again, like it must have felt, I guess, quite empowering, but also quite scary, because obviously you're kind of, again, going against this kind of like standard expectation, which is you just put up with it and shut up. I mean, how did you find that?
What I did is I walked away from whoever was doing it. So if I was being harassed by an attorney, I walked away. You know, I didn't work with that person anymore. If a manager, same thing. I walked away. And, you know, I heard that things were going on. A lot of things like that were going on in the business. And there was a situation once that I helped someone who was in the situation. But for me, I had already stopped. I had had years of that kind of situation. I mean, there are times when you do fall, people really care about you, or you're working with a producer and someone cares about you, or you work, you know, like you can have feelings for someone, but when it's a situation where it's a lawyer or a manager or an A&R person like starts to hit on you and you're not even remotely giving out any signals, like, yo, you know, we're talking, aren't we talking musical notes here? So, you know, when stuff like that starts to happen, after a while, I knew the ones to avoid.
Yeah.
And I could tell in the very beginning that I wasn't going to, you know, at first they came off like this and, oh, they're going to do this and offer me the world and this and that, and then I realized. And then when that started happening, if I asked them to stop once and they did it again, maybe I gave them a second try, but the third time I was out. I didn't care, contract or not. I'm like, that's it, we're done.
That's a really good message for women even today then, is actually like, don't feel like you have to put up with it, because actually it hasn't, like you've still been able to kind of get your music out there and get a record label. And so I think sometimes I do feel like women feel like they don't have another option because they feel like that's their only opportunity to get their creativity to the world. So it's nice to hear kind of you saying that actually you were able to stand up for yourself. And I think more women need to maybe hear that message. So
absolutely.
It's nice to hear that.
I mean, if you like someone and you're attracted to someone, you want to be with someone, that's a different story, no matter what position they have in your life. Because there are a lot of managers that are with their artists and they're in love and they get married, they have kids, who knows? You know, producers and artists get married and have relationships. You know, it happens all the time. But it's when you don't want that person keeps making advances towards you, and you that's it's harassment to us. You know, that's the bottom line. But it's also a situation where I want to make sure people understand there are wonderful artists. There are wonderful business people as well that are in the music business that don't hit on girls, and there are ones that do. You know, so you have to be able to kind of sniff out the bad ones and shake hands with the good ones. You know,
I have a question related to the music, because obviously it's such a prominent part of your story and everything that I've just watched and had the joy of watching. But I was just wondering, like, because it sounds like you've had so much happen in your life, how do you decide what kind of music to put alongside that, and what's your process for that?
So overall, I've had a wonderful experience. I've had wonderful experiences in the music business. I've been lucky to a certain extent as far as I've had some hit successes. I've had some challenges. I've had situations that didn't, whatever. But overall, I love writing songs. I love singing. I've been able to stay in the business and do what I want to do and start my own label. And I learned enough. So when I was putting the past together, one of the things I wanted to do is I don't want to stand up there and say, look what I've been through, and no. I want to get up there and go, yes, I'm me, and I love what I do, and I've made decisions, and I'm still writing songs, and I want my songs to be heard. And I think the biggest challenge for me as I got older, because the music business isn't always so wonderful to women who, as they age, it's like sort of like, and I had a lot of that as well. I used to lie about my age constantly. Like whatever they guessed, it was usually younger. So I'm like, yeah, that's a good guess. It happens. So it still happens. And so you have to kind of deal with the fact, oh my God, I'm still writing great songs and I'm still singing, and everyone thinks, but wait, am I too old? I was too old at 25. I was too old at, that's unfortunate. That's sort of how the business looks at women. And so I just kept doing it. And of course I lied about my age. So when I was 35, I was 25 and whatever, so, and that kind of helped me. That was kind of, I guess that's the part that I could get away with it, but why, and then it got to the point where, why do I have to lie? And that's what the past is about. The past is about me not lying about my age. The past is about me not saying, well, I'm not seeing anyone at the moment, whatever. It's about being honest, and it's about being who you are and being true to yourself. And when I was working on it, to be relevant, that's the key. An artist, so my peers, the closest thing to my success, I think, with peers would be when I was, the UK, when I had the Lucky Stars hit. I was kind of young, and people that really liked the song were younger, and they were around my age. And so I kind of had that moment of being relevant at the time. But ever since then, I never really had that kind of success. And I still feel like what I have to say is relevant. So that's why I put together and had deals. Like I said, I walked away from, and something it was supposed to be released. We had it all planned. We're going to release it. And then, oh no, we're going to play it to a big label. It's like, well, that's not the plan. I wanted to be on a small label. I wanted to release it like in 3-4 months, and I didn't want to go through the whole process of, putting yourself out there and people saying, well, I like this one, but I don't like that. There's an artistic travel that you have to go through when you're doing music. Like you hear a song, this is how you want it to be. You don't want it to sound like that. You want it to sound like this. It's your prerogative. You've created it. And when you have more people cooking in the kitchen, they're going to want to, no, do it that way, no, do it that way, do it that way. And, so that was part of it, but being relevant, that's why I did the past, because I wanted my songs to be heard, and so I put the songs in the order that it felt good, because it was more like celebrating and releasing and being open. I know this was a long answer to a very short question.
It's very interesting to hear, because obviously
you're covering a lot of years, so there's a lot of depth.
Yeah.
Also, I'm not a songwriter, so I don't know the process or anything, and it's really interesting to hear.
For me, it's an amazing process. First of all, when a song's coming, I always feel a little funny. I feel like things are a little out of rhythm. And then all of a sudden I sit down at the piano right here behind me, and I all of a sudden, I write a song. It comes to me. And then all of a sudden I feel like, I feel so much better. And they come. That's what happens. For me, that's the kind of songwriting I do. Sometimes I could get a title. And then the title sits with me. And then I start to think about, well, if a song's called Natural Love, what is that song going to sound like? It's going to sound like kind of natural. It's going to have a good feel to it, or if I'm going through something and I'm thinking, when did it become unsafe to be me? And then I got the song Me, and you come up with, it's sort of like I get inspired and then I write the song, and then I put the songs. So the songs are not necessarily in order of how I wrote them in the past. Because the first song I come out with is the a cappella of Live Forever. That was written in 2012. And then I do a song, It's an Ordinary Day, that I wrote when I was living in London and when I was signed to Warner Brothers Music. And I wrote that in 1980, 84, 85. Steady I wrote in 85. So I mix them all in. What feels good with the story, and what also, I wanted the show to be enlightening and positive and inspiring. I didn't want it to be like, these are my woes or my tales, like, no, come into the music business. It's a wonderful business. It's about the music. I'm not, but be yourself and know what you're getting into. And also,
it's nice and refreshing because it's truthful, but as you say, it's inspiring. And I think that's what I try and do with Lesflicks, is you want to educate people and give them the kind of reality, not the sugar-coated, it's all roses, this is exactly how it's supposed to be, because the reality isn't. And I think actually, especially when you have more niche content or more kind of content that really talks to a specific community, there's definitely benefits of being kind of more specialized or with a smaller organization that understands that audience. But yeah, hugely authentic and really kind of interesting.
Right, but that's a good point, because I was thinking about this when I was writing my songs. I was in a relationship with a man, I had a relationship with a woman, and I wasn't being authentic. And so I think in a way, like, I don't know how to explain this, but it was like, well, who is my audience? And I think my audience is still, hopefully still growing. And also my audience, what I care about most for me is not necessarily so much about my personal life, my politics and all that, though I do think in my songs I do have some messages. It's about songs and writing and music and being yourself and sort of being able to express yourself. That's the key for me. People that really appreciate songwriting and a voice that can, deliver a song. And maybe something that you don't hear all the time. Like you're having a little bit of the sound of your own.
Yeah. We've had a question come in already. Candice, congratulations on the show. I loved it. One of my favorite segments was when you were trying to get to the airport. Was there anything else to the story that didn't make the cut of the show? I mean, there must be loads missing, because obviously an hour and 45 minutes.
Candice is amazing. She's wonderful. I love Candice. We work together. She's an actress and a writer and fabulous. Hold on. So, can I talk to her? Can I ask her something? Can she hear me?
Yeah, she can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So, did I tell you something that specifically that I should say? I'm thinking, what happened in the car? Oh, what happened in the airport? Oh man. The car. I can't remember. I mean, we were trying to get to the airport. Was there anything else to the story that didn't make the cut of the show? I don't remember. I think I'm trying to remember what didn't make the cut. No, I don't think so. I mean, I was in the car, I was in the cab. The cab driver got me there. I ran upstairs. It all, they applauded. They held the plane. I had the hit. I don't know. No, I don't think so. Maybe. It was an amazing experience. I remember running. Thanks, Candice. I hope so. I don't know. I can't remember.
It sounds like an amazing experience.
Oh my gosh, I was like so late. I was so behind, and because I forgot my license, and they didn't know who I was, and I had to go all the way back to the apartment. They made it back in time. Yeah, I think that was it. I can't remember.
I guess that's one of those moments where you really know that like the universe is supporting you, because like most people would have missed that flight and that would have been that done. So it's a good sign that you're kind of doing the right thing, and the universe is there helping you through these things. So.
Yeah, I mean, I do take a lot of that into account, like what the universe is saying or telling me, and it's actually interesting because like sort of with this, with my reaching out to you with Lesflicks. So I did this recording and I thought, okay, let's see, maybe someone's interested in, showing it. And then I reached out to you and you said, yeah, let's work together. And it was like, okay, so that's the universe saying, yeah, people might, they put it out there. Why not?
Yeah.
Cool.
I was just on the back of that. I was actually just wondering, because outside of obviously, like I said before, that scene, it sounds like you've had so much experience in your life. Like, was there anything that didn't make it into the past that you kind of not necessarily wished could have made it to the past, but like, that is something that you wish you could have maybe added on?
That's a good question. I kind of wanted to edit it and make it so that there were situations that people could relate to, mm-hmm. and there could be greater stories. There were more stories, like more in-depth stories of things that couldn't have happened. But overall, I think I've got the gist of the important stuff. Like I tried to find the themes and the songs and to keep things interesting and keep things relevant and funny and interesting. Because I tried to use situations that could also happen today. Because there's so many things in my career, and it was really interesting. When I worked with Gretchen Cryer to kind of like narrow things down. Like, do we need this? Do we need that? Putting in the whole thing about my cousin Carrie. The AIDS and his wife Linny. I mean, that was really important to me. And there was a time we talked about, maybe do we want to not have that? And I said, yeah, I need to have that in there because it was my first really major loss of someone close to me, and it was the times. It was the 80s and the AIDS, and it was really intense and it really hit home. So, yeah, and I don't know. I think I would have to think about that, like after this time now. What is there something that I want to put in that I didn't put in?
There's a lot of pivotal moments that really, I guess, and as you say, relatable, and it's like just really nice. You get a really good sense of the journey you've been on. So I think it's, it really does work for kind of giving that kind of just a taster of the excitement you've been through. We have another question that's come through. Lena's asking, who has been the most inspiring person you've come across in your life so far?
That's a great question. I think as an artist, I've always been inspired by Kate Bush. As an artist, I was at a work show with her in '78, but I never met her. But when I was doing the tour, I was over in the UK, and I remember one of the label persons, the woman A&R person, said, have you ever heard of Kate Bush? I'm like, no. And she played her. I'm like, my whole world shifted. So that I just, all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, these are amazing songs, amazing chords, the sound of it. I think it inspired me for my songwriting, so that I wanted to write songs that didn't sound like other songs. I think that's sort of how how I related to Kate Bush being her own unique songwriter. But my own came across in my life so far, inspiring people. Gretchen Cryer, who helped me with this show, absolutely was very inspiring, because I remember I went to her and I told her some of my stories and I put her some of my songs, and I said to her, is there anything here? Do you think like this is worth doing? Because I said to her, because there's a saying in showbiz, does it have legs? I said, does it have legs? She said, absolutely. So that was really important to me, to see a woman like that who's been helping so many people, and she's written her own show, and she's a great talent, an actress, singer. She does a lot of stuff. And she was really inspiring for me. I don't think I would have done the show if she wasn't there with me. Let's get this vignette. Because I told her what I wanted to do, and she said, sure. I mean, try it. Why not? So she was very inspiring. My mom was very inspiring. My mom, when she had to deal with the breakup of her marriage and how it happened, she was filled with such dignity and such poise and grace. And she handled it in a way that I think was pretty extraordinary. So she was definitely a big influence.
Great. No, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, it's so interesting to see who inspires us. But I think the thing I found really interesting, and I think it's really something for everyone to take away, as women, sometimes we don't always believe in ourselves, or we kind of second guess ourselves. And so again, I think that's really important to kind of support each other as women, and to give that kind of affirmation and confirmation to people that, you know, what you do have is a talent, or what you are doing is the right thing to be doing. Because I think sometimes we need that little push from the people around us, and we need to support each other in that way to kind of give us that confidence to take that next step. So it's good to have those kind of people around you who can do that.
Absolutely. Another person actually is my publisher, Chris Munoz. She's an inspiration. She's been through a lot of stuff, and she's so good to so many people, and she's so supportive to my work. You know, she was part of the networking stitch. And I think meeting her, excuse me, also shifted things for my life, just to see a different approach to life. Because I think it's interesting, because I think we can all face certain situations. And we might face them one way had we not met someone a year or two or three before. And then we meet someone, and then we say, maybe that will stick in our head, like, oh, that's how that person handled it. And then you might handle it a little differently, because you're more open to people that impress you when it just sort of happens naturally. Like, it's not like there's someone here that you've always looked up to, or this and that. My Aunt Toby actually also inspires me. She's a performer, and she's kind of maintained a really interesting, positive perspective in life. And she is the mother of Carrie, who passed away, my cousin who passed away. You know, but, you know, there's certain people that you see how they handle certain situations, and that's, for me, what sticks is, yeah, that's a good way to handle that. You know, as opposed to not everything everybody does, or not everything is, you know, I had a conversation with my brother David today about that. Like, we all have our flaws, we all have our pluses, you know, and it's okay, you know, but we should be able to give and take from the things that, you know, that we're good at, or that we can share with others, a very natural way to share, you know. And it's positive, you know, when people, that it's interesting actually, when people have such strengths, but they don't really realize they have those strengths. And you have to say, you know, that really inspired me. My niece Stephanie inspired me too last night, in the biggest of ways. I have to share. Can I share?
Yeah, do please.
So she's married to this guy, Mark. I introduced him in the studio. I was working with Mark, producing him. And so last night, she sang my song Steady. She does these Saturday night, like, we'll do it live thing on Facebook. And she surprised me. She called it my birthday last night, because it was my birthday of the show coming up today. And she sang my song Steady, and I was blown away. I was like really inspired, because first of all, like, I never heard anyone else sing the song, but also because she sang it in such a beautiful way, and she sounded amazing. And I just thought to myself, well, I haven't played Carnegie Hall, but my niece just did Steady. You know, that made me feel like, yeah, the journey.
That's wonderful to hear, because it's like, it sounds like you've inspired her. So you're talking, it seems like a lot of people have inspired you from what I saw and what you sang about in the past, but it also sounds like you're inspiring people too, which is obviously amazing, because I mean, if it just shows that what you've been trying to kind of talk about in the past, and, you know, try and be relatable, and it just shows that, you know, you're reaching people. And of course your niece singing that, it just, to me it just seems like that's your way, like you've reached her, you've inspired her, and it means that you're obviously reaching other people too.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the end, and I think I said this to someone, I've had such difficulties in the business, you know, it's been not easy. and I've had to take things into my own hands, and I've challenges and this and that. And the songwriter wants their songs heard. That's the bottom line. I want my songs heard, and I love the idea of someone else singing one of my songs. And so I had that, like I didn't expect it, and I guess it's someone close to me, but that's cool, and it's sort of like, I think as an artist, the purpose, why you do what you do is really important. And I think when I first got started, I had a message. I wanted, my first song was The All-American Girl. One of my first songs, it was like, are you the All-American Girl? Like, what is the All-American Girl? And don't be something that you think they want you to be who you want to be. And then I had a song called Condescending Lines, Trapped Inside a Shallow Surface. My stuff was really kind of intense and kind of out there, but it was cool. And I always I was singing because I wanted to say something. When I started, it was the late 70s, and so messages were very much a part of song. And, the Bob Dylan's and the Joni Mitchell's and all these messages, and I was sort of, mixing genres like I do. They didn't know what to do with me. And now the songwriting is such a different experience. And one of the most recent songs I've written was Rainbow. And songs are more like conversation now, in a way. They're not so much like about messages. They're more like a text message, kind of more. It's like that kind of a message. And it's fascinating just to hear and see how songs have changed. And then you have the songs like from the theatrical world, and you have classical songs. And it's interesting, the shift in pop music with hip hop and R&B and soul, and just how music has shifted over the years. And it's interesting, because you again, it's about being relevant. So what is relevant to you? And also, like, for any artist of any age, like, can someone who's 20 relate to your song? Can someone who's 50 relate to your song? Like, I always think that music does, like artists or music shouldn't have an age to it, but like music is ageless to a certain extent.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We have another question coming from Ping on Twitch. Do you think the music industry is more forgiving for women now than it was when you first started?
Can you ask her what she means by forgiving?
That's a good point. Yeah.
What do you mean by forgiving?
Just give it a second.
I mean, you can be. I mean, when I first got started, you had to look a certain way, you had to be a certain way. Yeah. So in that way, I love that anything goes. That's why I was positive, because I mean, even though, like I said, when I was first started, I had a boyfriend, but I had a secret girlfriend, which is on the show. And it was tearing me apart. I was so stressed out, but I was writing all these great songs because I was so tormented, the tormented artist. And so, because I looked a certain way, I remember I did a concert and the label was there, and they asked my manager, "Does she date men and women, or women and men and men or men? What is her story? And my manager, of course, said she has a boyfriend who was there. So, but they were very, 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 they wanted women to be in a box.
Yeah.
Welcoming,
so are they more welcoming, less soul destroying, or safer?
Yeah, I think women are much safer now in the music business. Absolutely, for sure. Be who you are. I mean, look at Billie Eilish. I mean, it's phenomenal. Like, she can come out with her baggy clothes and do her singing, and she sings this so vulnerable with this voice and soft. It's like, it's amazing. That absolutely, it's a perspective. And I think it also, as far as the perspective of being a woman, I mean, women are so many things now, and women have always been so many things, just like men are. But the music business, like I said, when I first got started, they wouldn't sign, women, they would sign one artist, solo female artist, not in a band, like, Heart or something, but like, solo female artists. And it's much better now. Like, the female artists are ruling. They rule the charts. They're there. They're writing. You're doing everything, producing. I always love producing. So it's a much better universe for women artists, for sure. And plus, business-wise, you can do your own thing. You can open your own label. You can put your own record out. You want to make a record with a turtle in the background, or an accordion, or if you want to just sit there and clap your hands and sing a cappella, do it. Anything goes. And people will either, you hope to find an audience. That's, I think, in the end, with all artists of any kind of genre or, discipline, they want people to enjoy what they do or get something out of it.
So you've obviously say you've created your own record label, you've moved into PR. Do you feel like, would you rather not have to do that and just be able to focus on your music, or have you found actually this is beneficial and actually does it work for you in that sense? And what would you recommend for other artists?
I think you have to know a bit about PR. I think it's good to know a little bit about everything if you're going to be in the business. You should know about law. You should legally understand. You should be able to read a contract, like I said earlier. You should be able to understand a press release, what you want to say, what's important, who, what, where, when, why, because you want to be able to understand what's the message you're putting across. I don't think I would rather do anything. I love doing the PR and marketing. I started because I did it for myself for my own first record, because I got to the point where, okay, I put my trust into this publishing company and that publishing company and that record company and this, and it's like, did it myself. And I think the universe is going to tell me what the universe is going to tell me. I love helping others. It's really helped me to understand myself more by helping others with their dreams, whether it's for a book. I've got some wonderful clients that I work with through Key Media Public Relations. Candace was just on earlier. I love helping others. I really do, and it's helped me. And so to sort of, you can't. I guess you can, but when you're an artist too, you can sometimes get a little too self-absorbed, and I don't like being self-absorbed. I like to think about other people. I like to think about other things. I like to think about, ways to make the planet, the earth better, positive vibes. So I like doing it. And if something happened with the past, and I had to go, do a big production of it, because sometimes I want to keep it like it is, just piano and vocal, and then sometimes people, after it premiered on Musae, which was where I recorded at the gallery in NYC, Revelation Gallery, people were texting me, "Oh my God, you got to add a band and add an orchestra, and you should have backup singers. You could make this a really big production." And then I'm like, well, or I could just keep it like it is. But I think if my clients that I really care about, if I had to go on the road for a while, if I had to go do something for a while, they understand, they support me. I think I have those types of clients now that know that I'm still doing what I do, and so it only helps them because I'm more relevant and I understand what it feels like to write a press release in 2021 for them, because I can understand what it's like to write it for me. And so I think doing yourself what you do for others is, for me, it works. I'm not going to.
It sounds a lot like songwriting, because you mentioned in the past that you wanted for them to, from the beginning, to know you were a songwriter, and it sounds like songwriting isn't necessarily something you do. It's just a part of who you are, and it just comes to you so naturally. And I was just wondering, when did you first realize that you wanted to be a songwriter? Like, how did you know?
I'm hearing your accent now. It's lovely. But when did you first know? It's interesting because I think when I was younger, I used to sit at my mom's vanity and pretend I could play piano. I always wanted to play piano. So I'm self-taught, and I can't play anyone else's music but my own. So I just go to the piano and I hear music and I write it. So when did I start? The first song, I think, I was singing when I was younger, and then the first song I actually wrote, I think I was starting to do some stuff when I went to the University of Arizona. I was in Tucson for a while, and I was in a band, and we were doing some original material. And that was probably when I was 21, 22. Because I was singing in bands. I used to do all this rock and roll stuff. I was in a band called Jamaica in high school. Ewing High, Jamaica. And it was pretty cool. It was me and like 7 guys. And, we did all these cover stuff, And then I went to University of Arizona, and then I got into an original band. I think it was called Earthwind or Earthworks. I can't remember the name of the band. It was 2 guys, acoustic guitar and me, and they started writing songs, and then I started helping them. So that was probably when I was my freshman year at University of Arizona. I first started writing songs, like helping other people write songs, and put it together. And then I went to NYU. I was sneaking in, and then I wanted to play music. I just wanted to write songs. It was just like, that's all I did. Like I was so obnoxious. Like, I can't go out. I have to go write a song. I just need to be by the piano. I've had a love affair with the piano for a long time. It's a beautiful instrument. I mean, all instruments, percussion I love too.
You mentioned about the maybe making it bigger than it currently is, and actually, funny enough, Ping has asked another question, which is, if the past was made into a motion picture, who would you like to play your role? So if it's
in other words, me different years. What a great question.
We're taking it to a fictional biographical feature now. We're like really, amplifying things. Who plays you, ideally?
Thing you're gonna get some chewing gum. You've won the contest. If the past was made to a motion picture, who would you like to play your role? So wait, did you ask her what age? Careful there. Which age? In the 20s? Can I play myself at some point?
I mean, if you want to.
Great. That'd be a great cameo if you played yourself, like at some point. That'd be amazing.
Walking up. That's Denise Marsa? Oh no, that's a good one. Oh, crazy. Wait a second. Who would I want to play me? That's such a great question. I would want it to be someone brand new and we'd audition her and we'd discover her at different ages. And I want to give the opportunity to some brand new fabulous singer, songwriter, singer, or someone who wants to, and someone who had what I felt that determination and that tenacity and that the ability to to see who she was even when she didn't know who she was.
I like that answer. That's a good answer. Discover someone new. I think that's a great. I love it when a big music film comes out and it's just someone new. I love that. I'm all for them doing it more often. So I think that would be great.
Here's an interesting story, and this is a true story. So I live in the West Village, and when I first came to New York to perform, I was living in Princeton, New Jersey. I had a band. This guy got Alex, and I had Simon on congas, and we had this, and Harry on drums, and we came in, we'd play a couple of gigs, and I did a set, and a lawyer came over to me, and he gave me a $2 bill, a $2 certificate, which I still have, and he wrote on it. And he said to me, because at the time I was really kind of rock and rolling, and he said, they're doing a movie about Janis Joplin, and you should play her. You would be a great Janis Joplin, but they want a name. The movie was The Rose. And so that's a perfect example of, sorry, I didn't put that, of back then, people would never, you wouldn't put someone, and of course, Bette Midler was phenomenal and all that stuff. But I remember the first time someone said I should play someone iconic, after doing my gig, my set. And it's interesting because I think now with shows like American Idol and all those types of shows now, someone can go from here to here. And that's another thing, like psychologically, to prepare yourself preparing yourself for success and then preparing yourself for non-success. It's almost like you have to do both at the same time. Because you never know what's going to happen, and you have to sort of trust that, there's a certain amount of fate faith, faith and fate comes into play. And that's what I think I'm doing better now, because I think I always wanted to be able to figure out that you can't. You just have to let it go and let the universe do what it's going to do. So that's a great question, Ping. Thanks for that. Yeah, a movie. I didn't think of a movie of my real life story, because I don't feel like I've reached that place, that plateau. Like, who wants to do a movie about me? I'm just a woman who writes songs and still loves writing songs and have my story. What I was thinking is we could just do like another version of the past in the form it's in now, but a bigger production. But interesting idea. Food for thought.
It is indeed. So obviously, so the past is now, you can watch it. What do you hope in terms of what this will help? Is it like, do you hope to inspire others, or what do you see as the next part of the journey for you now that the past is out? Kind of what's next?
I want everyone to watch it on Lesflicks. I think it's amazing. I don't think it should be, whether you like women or just women, or you like men and women, women and men, whatever, I want people to watch it. I think, hopefully enjoy it, for it to be relevant and to help inspire whatever it is you want to do. Do what you love to do. That's part of my message as well. Next, I don't know, like, I was thinking about it, like, this kind of came together very organically, and so whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. The woman that did the set design for me, Lauren Holborn, said this could be a series. It's like, well, I don't know, like, I never thought of it as a series, but I think what I want it to be is some people hearing my songs, really, and also hearing stories that, kind of, I think I also forgot the one word that when I first started, I remember now I said, I want it to be entertaining. So hopefully, and I wonder, like, sometimes you get a little too close as the artist and the writer, and, taking on as much the roles that I've taken on. Not that it's interesting, because I've had so much control, whatever, because you really don't. Anything could happen. My internet could have gone down today, and I would not even be here right now. But to let go and let somebody else take it. Like, if somebody else, go, have fun, let me peek in once in a while. The songs are there.
Well, it was definitely a privilege watching it, and I was definitely thoroughly entertained. And I'm so glad that the universe let you make it and let us have it on Lesflicks so that we can show it to other people. Because I think it is, like you said, it's inspired me. There's a lot of stories in there that I've related to, and, I've taken away things from it, even though, like, I've related to stories. I know that there may be more experiences in my life, and I'll think back and think, oh, maybe I can do this differently. And I try and do that with everything I watch, but I definitely feel like that was something that I was able to do from the past. So thank you so much for making it.
Sure, you're welcome. And it's interesting, because when I first did the very first run through, in the end, I said, and I changed it, but I did say, because this is like the fourth time I've done it, the show that you're showing, I said something like, why don't you write a story about your life, the defining moments? Why don't you sit there and write that? And then if you want to write songs to it, great. Or write poems, or write, story. Because I learned so much from doing the past, writing it. It's almost like, in a way, my salvation, because, you want, you wish, you long for, you work for, you don't know what's going to happen, but you do what you do. And it's been such an amazing process for me to do the past, amazing. And I wouldn't be able to do it if it weren't for BMG. A nice little thank you again to BMG and for doing us for all this work.
I'm a big fan of kind of just seeing other women other queer women, because we don't ever, it's always so quiet, and you kind of sit there kind of going, there's not many role models out there to look at. So all these little stories really do make such a difference. I think, documentaries and, biographical shows and things, they all just give colour to the real broad community that we're part of. And I think, inspire people in different ways. As you say, you can take something from all these different stories, no matter what kind of, whether it's a documentary about activism or a show about your life and music. There's always something people can take from these, and that's what I really love, is bringing those stories to light. Because that saying, if you can't be what you can't see, we definitely need to put more of those stories out front, so people can really kind of see where they are in the universe and where they are in the world, and be inspired by those around them, not just think there's no space for us.
Right. And now I was going to ask you guys. Can I ask you guys a couple questions real quick?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. So good point. And I think we talked about this, Naomi, on the phone when I saw the Kate Winslet film. Bravo for her for playing a lesbian role. And then also she said in an interview that they need to be more stories about same-sex relationships. Whether you have a same-sex relationship for 4 years and then you go to whatever it is, I think it's probably safe to say most people on this earth, if you're under 30 or 40, you've probably had some sort of an experience with the same sex. I always say there's two choices out there. There's 100 types of all the products, but there's, maybe 3 choices now, but so politically correct. But why did you create Lesflicks? Tell me about the journey, the two of you, Naomi, it's so inspiring that you did this. So tell me why.
Well, I've always done stuff in my community. I previously had a lesbian lifestyle website called Planet London, Planet Nation. It was just getting too broad. The lesbian lifestyle was exploding. We were suddenly releasing hundreds of, self-published books and loads of music and loads of events and loads of theatre. And I was like, this is too much. I can't cover it all. So I stepped back and was like, well, okay, where can I really make a difference? And I love film and I love representation. I love TV and media, and I studied it, but I never really did anything with it. And I just looked and I realised that the content exists and the stories exist, and it is that visibility. And what you see in the mainstream is not the stories that audience are craving. We want to see the full depth of our community, of the warts, the cracks, the kind of behind the scenes as well. And the mainstream tends to only show us that tip of the iceberg, the little bit where we interact with the mainstream. So I really wanted to kind of take what I've always done, which is work for grassroots, work for the kind of the people on the ground, because if you don't support your structure and your stable people at the beginning, you just can't build anything from that. So I really wanted to get those stories that I know are the ones we really want to see, and just make them more accessible for the audience, really, and just make it easy. The audience wants to see them, the films exist, but there was no easy way to bring those two together that supported both parties. And for me, it is about not running a capitalist organization, which seems to be the kind of the go-to model. It's like, no, you can find a way where it's ethically priced so the audience doesn't pay too much, but also you make sure that the creators get paid fairly for what they've created. Right. And also you make sure they have the rights of their content so that they can continue to work with the content they've created. And so for me, it's about kind of creating that vehicle that will allow us to grow and to take up that space and allow more women to see potentially versions of themselves that they might not have considered, and to make it a bit more open.
In other words, too, what I liked about the Kate Winslet film is this woman was, she, I think, was an archaeologist, right? She found fossils.
Yeah. Being
with a woman wasn't the main part of the story. Like Carol kind of was like that, the movie Carol. But being with, the other movie with Kate Winslet, it was like that was just a part of it. So so the landscape of a woman with a woman and the man with a man, or man, whatever your landscape is, it's a part of it. But look how many movies have been made about a man and a woman. Whether it's from the 20s and the 30s, from Charlie Chaplin, so. The content, there's a lot of room for content and for stories where it's just a piece of it that they happen to be two women living together, or then they experience this or this. I watched Nomadland last night. Woo! Interesting film. There was a question I think that was up. That was like, have you seen it? That film?
I haven't had chance to watch that because literally since Lesflicks has taken off, all I have time to watch is the deluge of content I'm being sent and going, it's just so good. And there's, even though I knew there was a lot, there is so much more out there. It's crazy. So literally anything.
It's interesting to see that, you know, how they focus on certain things. But also, so do you have time for a relationship? That's the question.
I do. I have a very patient girlfriend who, you know, has been very, very patient with the fact that I am just like way too busy, because Lesflicks has taken off a life of its own, because it is, as I say, even I didn't expect to have so much from this, and it's just literally kind of snowballed so quickly because there is suddenly all these films that even I didn't, and I was like, I love film, how did I not know these exist? And so it has kind of taken over my life and the living room and the dining room, and like, you know, this weekend I've been on Zoom 24 hours now. This is our 25th hour in now of this weekend of closing Lesbian Visibility Week. So yeah,
you can't wait till it's like, this is going to be a big cheers. You know, what's going to be the cocktail of choice?
Oh, I might just have a glass of Baileys.
Oh, we have somebody coming in. Hold on.
Yes to more lesbian visibility, normalizing WLW stories, positive representation matters. 100%.
Ping, that's the one that reviewed my show. Thank you, Ping, for the lovely review. It was wonderful. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah. So, okay, so what about you, Sophie? Tell me your story. Like, what do you want to get to do with Lesflicks, and what is your goal for this next year? I'm switching the seats, you know. Okay.
Well, I know that I was really lucky to, I mean, I didn't see a lot of women loving women on TV, but I did see it. You know, I grew up watching Willow and Tara and a couple of other characters, but I always knew that there was more characters, and I always knew that seeing yourself on screen was important. And, you know, like a lot of people like myself at Lesflicks, you spend your entire life kind of combing the internet and everything for every little bit of representation that you can find. And just to be able, when I found out Lesflicks existed, I thought, this is amazing, and I want to do everything I can just to make it easier for other people to access, so that the next generation of people can grow up and see themselves on screen, because it really is important. Yeah. And I'm so glad that I found Lesflicks, because it felt like a piece of me was missing and I didn't know what it was. And I feel like I found that. I feel like being able to like bridge that gap and to talk about films the way that I do with Lesflicks, and to promote it and show people that, you know, you do exist on screen somewhere, and here it is in one place for you, it's just fantastic. And I'll do whatever I can to support Naomi and Lesflicks.
That's awesome. So it's work of passion, and I think when passion is a catalyst, something like, you know, I feel success can follow when you've got that passion to do something, to make a difference, to make a change. I mean, it's that time right now too. Like, there's so many things changing. It's such a powerful time to be alive. It's like, you know, when you think about a year ago, you think about the United States of America, what we were doing a year ago, and who was in charge at the tippy top. You know, it's like, I can say one thing about these times, a bit more of a hallelujah, because I think, you know, people are wanting to see change, and they're making the change. They're realizing, oh, I have the power. Yeah, we all have the power. Cool. Very cool. So,
Naomi, you're muted.
Her girlfriend just was yelling at her, come home!
That's all we have time for. We've been over an hour. It's been amazing talking, and time has flown by. But I really appreciate you taking the time to share a bit more of behind the scenes and a bit more of your journey, and really talking about what you've been through. And it's been really interesting to delve into that. And thank you for asking us questions as well, and kind of, you know, putting that out there. I think what I would say is, you can't do anything alone. It does take a community. At the moment, the industry and the world doesn't think there's many of us as queer women, as lesbian, bisexual women. We're kind of seen as a small group. We need to be more visible on our social media, support each other, and lift each other up a lot more.
Exactly. We talked about that, and you had said something about the support sometimes could be stronger between the lesbian community and the lesbian community and the bisexual and the whatever. So all women, that love women, that love themselves, really should be able to come together and really make Lesflicks a huge success, but also all the whatever platform, because we're all in this together. So I hope it continues to do well. And thank you for having me. This has been awesome. A really special treat for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So before we go, we're going to play out the Lesflicks Video on Demand platforms trailer. So for those of you that don't know what Lesflicks is yet, you can get a little bit of a taster of the kind of thing you can find on our platform. As I say, this has been Lesbian Visibility Week, so please continue. We don't exist for 1 week. We exist all year long. So keep being visible. Take this week and keep pushing, keep putting it out there. I think I saw a hashtag at the beginning of the week, which was like lesbian visibility every day. And I think we should live by that. Because, we do exist every day. So thank you for watching. Please do share this Q&A with your friends, your networks. Please watch the pass and do tell people it exists. The success is through the community sharing. It's the grassroots that really makes these things successful. So without further ado, and thank you, Sophie, as well, for continuing to join us for these
Thank you for having me.
Q&As.
It's a pleasure and an honor.
And so here is the Lesflicks trailer. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening and a safe rest of 2021.
Want a quick and easy way to watch some of the best lesbian, bisexual, and queer films out there?
All I can do is think about the next time that you're going to touch me.
With access to feature films, shorts, and web series?
I do.
Then Lesflicks is the place for you.
No way.
This looks like a great space.
For a low monthly cost, you can watch some amazing oldies.
So you can't talk about your problems while I'm naked? It is a distraction.
Somebody's having a bad day.
And catch some great new content, all while supporting the artists directly.
I am utterly speechless.
After all, who doesn't love women loving women?
Soy enamorada.
Start your free trial today and enter a world made for you.
Come on. You know you want to.